Tekrar merhabalar. 3. Uluslararası Etnomüzikoloji Sempozyumun son oturumundayız hep birlikte. Bugün bu sempozyumda ise daha çok yurt dışı katılımcılarımızı dinleyeceğiz. İlk katılımcımız David Kearney, İrlanda'dan katılıyor. Kendisi önce bize bir merhaba diyecek. Ardından da bize her türlü aksaklığa ihtimaliyle yolladığı bir video var. Onu izlemeye başlayacağız sunumunu video şeklinde. Önce ben hemen David Kearney'i biraz tanıtmak isterim. Kendisi Dundalk Institute of Technology'den gelme ve Department of Creative Arts, Media and Music departmanından katılıyor ve sunacağı topik ise Forging the Dance, the Expression of Regional Identity in Irish Folk Theatre. Şimdi Deity ile bir şey yapacağız, bağlantı yapacağız ufak. Evet, Deity'nin sesi açık. Hi Deity.
Good morning, lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much for your attention, and your paper is very useful and very deep approach includes. And thank you very much. Yes, I hope to meet face to face in the near future, I think.
I hope so, yes. But it's great to be able to participate here today with everybody, and a very interesting series of papers.
Thank you very much. Let's start watch your video. Is it okay?
Yes?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Evet, buyurun.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dahi Carney. I'm a lecturer and co-director of the Creative Arts Research Centre at Dundalk Institute of Technology in Ireland. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you in person for the International Ethnomusicology Symposium, Music, Dance and Identity, Timbres of the Danube, hosted by the Association of Ethnomusicology in Bursa. But I hope you enjoy my presentation on Irish folk theatre. Thank you. Symposium, the national folk theatre of Ireland, emerged from a cultural renaissance in Kerry in the southwest of Ireland during the 1950s and 1960s that was significantly influenced by the work of a local Roman Catholic priest, Pat Ahern. Following his ordination in 1957, Ahern was tasked with establishing a choir in the local church. Informed by his interest and previous experience in drama, the success of the choir led to the development of a series of religious pageants directed by Ahern, beginning with Massabielle, the story of Lourdes, in 1958. A party, after a production of the Passion play Golgotha in 1963, indirectly led to the formation of Shimsóirí na Ríochta, which later became Symposium, the National Folk Theatre of Ireland, in 1974. The use of the appellation National Folk Theatre mirrors international examples such as those discussed by ethnochoreologist Anthony Shea in his study of folk dance ensembles from 2002. Despite this title, the company remained primarily concerned with the intangible cultural heritage of the local region as expressed through dance, while engaging with a broader national repertoire of traditional music and song. Growing up on a farm in North Kerry, Ahern had himself learned to play fiddle and to dance from local exponents. He later attended University College Cork from 1960 to 62, where he studied for a B.Mus under Professor Alois Fleischmann. Informed by his studies and experiences away from Kerry, in Tralee, Ahern was inspired by the performances of cast members at the post-production party for Golgotha who embodied local cultural practices. In 1965, he produced a series of television pieces for the national television station, incorporating music, song and dance into the representation of rural work practices. Assisted by local tourism figures, these scenes were developed into a full-length stage production in 1968. The show, Fado Fado, translated as Long Long Ago, represented rural practices on the theatre stage using music, song, dance and mime. All of the songs were in the Irish language, but there was little or no spoken word. The inspiration for the production came largely from the memories of Ahern himself and some other cast members. It is against this production that many subsequent are assessed, providing a founding principle of Irish folk theatre, and it is clear that many elements and artistic approaches prevail, but are developed, as exemplified in Ding Dong Dedero from 1991 and Elan from 2003. The development and evolution of the Sím sa tíre company and its artistic outputs reflect the life experiences and changing philosophies of identity shaped by socio-cultural, political and economic factors. That the subject matter and community of musical practice are explicitly and geographically local impacts on the identity of Sím sa tíre. The development of the company is underpinned by a plan written by Ahern and architect Patrick O'Sullivan in 1972, which places an emphasis on both aspects of Irish culture and the location of the theatre, identifying Tralee rather than the capital city Dublin for its location, in addition to a number of other rural training centres. This was a time of significant change in Ireland, affected by our decision to join the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1973, which offered both an opportunity and a challenge for the preservation of an Irish identity. Foley posits the development of Sím sa tíre as a response to globalisation, modernisation and urbanisation. Thus, as in examples provided by Shea, the staging of folk culture creates a context for the idealised representation of ethnic difference. However, it is important to remember that Irish identity and the perceptions and understandings of Irishness have changed over time, and processes including colonisation, European integration and globalisation lead to a reformulation of Irishness replicated in music, dance and theatre. Despite using the title of National Folk Theatre of Ireland since 1974 and increasingly NFT in recent years, I argue that the underlying ethos and philosophy of Sím sa tíre was not bounded by ethnic nationalism. Ahern himself has indicated the influence of anthropologist and folklorist James Fraser and mythologist Joseph Campbell, whose work highlight the shared themes and tropes in folklore across cultures. Critiquing local and global perspectives in Irish drama, Nicholas Green and Patrick Lonigan also highlight the globalisation of Irish theatre from the 1970s, whereby some scholars and critics conceive of the world as a single place with one broadly shaped culture. Yet there is also a fundamental belief in the Irishness of Sím sa tíre. Tess Kleminski notes that Irish traditional music has long played a role in both delimiting and expanding who and what counts as Irish through its production of sound, discourse and sociability. Mirroring other nationalist movements and drawing on an old Irish proverb, Tír gan teanga, tír gan anam, a country without a language is a country without a soul, Ahern was deeply invested in the Irish language, despite its decline and the fact that many of the performers were not fluent in the language. To this end, he looked to the Gaeltacht, and many, including myself, remember him emphasising the correct pronunciation of song lyrics. Ahern was also influenced by his friend, the philosopher John Moriarty, also a native of North Kerry. Writing about the development of the show Moriarty in 2009, playwright Michael Harding states that Moriarty's vision was to reinvoke Ireland, to reawaken a conscience and a consciousness that might really be the ancient soul of Ireland, and that we would do well to recover. Thus, Sím sa tíre presents two apparently competing philosophies in relation to identity, which are further complicated by its engagement with the cultural region. From its earliest beginnings, Sím sa tíre is thus influenced by local and external cultures. Key to understanding the development of the company and its relationship with the local is the aforementioned unpublished plan from 1972. The plan is immediately both local and global in its outlook, presenting a vision for training centres and education programmes for the benefit and creation of a local community of practice engaged in folk culture, while acknowledging the potential to engage international audiences. The physical space is a meeting space from which the character of the community can be distilled for representation on the stage. For Ahern, while the intricacies of expression may differ, folk culture is something that is shared across all peoples. In plans for a theatre, the authors write, the purpose of the theatre is also to be an inlet for other folk cultures, an international centre where the folk cultures of other nations are exhibited on an exchange basis. This contact with others is an important influence on the enhancement and enrichment of the home product. It reinforces the cultural re-education of our own people. Audience reactions, notably those during the 1976 tour of North America, reveal a familiarity with the themes of the company regardless of ethnic background. Both aspects of social anthropologist Anthony Cohen's central ideas on the notion of community are evident as Shimsa engage with the aspects of aggregation and relation. While a professional core company has existed since 1985, the majority of performers are part of a community cast. Through touring and engaging with artists from outside the company, including international artists, Shimsa Tira have developed a greater sense of local identity and its place in a global sphere. Cohen asserts that people become aware of their culture when they stand at its boundaries, when they encounter other cultures, or when they become aware of other ways of doing things, or merely of contradictions to their own culture. Reflective of what Shea terms particularization, the local solo step dance style is fundamental to the performances of the company and is heavily influenced by the North Kerry tradition of dancing masters, and Jeremiah Molyneux in particular. Indeed, Ahern himself was a pupil of Molyneux, known locally as Munnix. Ahern and the company sought to develop dance as a form of expression, and the evolving style and engagement with folk dance was inspired in part by Russian choreographer Igor Moiseev. From the 1980s, the company worked with a number of Irish and international dancers and choreographers that connected folk and contemporary dance. This is particularly evident in works such as Between Worlds, the second act of Ding Dong Darrow, and Clown Lear. However, Shimsa Tira also collaborated with international artists, perhaps best reflected in the Seville Suite from 1992, when they worked with flamenco dancer Maria Pajes to choreograph the music of Bill Whelan. As Claude Levi-Strauss stated, every culture must liberate its creative potential by finding the correct equilibrium between isolation and contact with others. Song is also integral to the company's performances, and Ahern drew on his knowledge of Western art music to inform his arrangement of traditional Irish song for soprano, alto, tenor and bass. An Irish traditional fiddle player, Ahern grew up in a musical milieu of local culture before studying classical violin and piano at university. However, the outside influence on musical style is less evident in many of the productions, although there is a desire to incorporate the harp in the 1970s, perhaps reflective of the popularity of Mary O'Hara, both in Ireland and in the USA. Despite the huge commercial success of Riverdance in the 1990s, there is a resistance to developing a modern production, but subsequent to Ahern's involvement with Shimsa Tira, some of the productions, such as Trust from 2013, demonstrate the influence of large-scale international dance productions that foreground Irish dance, such as Riverdance and Lord of the Dance. Thus, the artistic roots of the company are always circling and returning to the roots, but constantly seeking to evolve an identity that is relevant locally and globally, engaging in innovative artistic practice and attracting overseas tourists seeking to experience a representation of the culture of the southwest of Ireland. Writing about several international folk dance companies in the latter half of the 20th century, Shea notes how they presented essentialist portraits of their respective nation states and accrued valued symbolic and cultural capital for their respective nation states. Shimsa Tira fit within this analysis at this time, but as Ireland's identity has evolved, the relevance of Shimsa Tira as a national folk theatre can be critiqued. The concept of a national theatre is a recurring trope, and in 2019, an article in the Irish Times pointed to debates on how a national theatre should reflect a country's identity. Fisher argues, a national theatre isn't just an organisation that puts on plays, it is also a symbol. Put the word national in your name and you become a receptacle for a country's values. In what you do, the nation will seek the very definition of itself, a definition perhaps vaguely articulated but intensely felt. While commentary on Shimsa Tira in the wake of Riverdance has suggested that if the latter represents a modern urban Ireland, then Shimsa Tira represents its rural past. Critical commentary has sometimes been less kind. While much scholarship has attended to how Riverdance may have contributed to a changing perception of Ireland and Irish culture, critic Colm Tobin in 1987 was scathing in his criticism of Shimsa Tira's performances at that time. By then, Shimsa Tira had toured internationally, winning the European Prize for Folk Art in Germany in 1975 and successfully touring the USA in 1976 with performances in many major theatres including the Palace Theatre on Broadway, mirroring Green and Lonergan's 2012 recognition of the internationalisation of Irish drama since the 1970s. Perhaps partly due to its associations with tourism and a rejection of a romanticized rural identity in favour of one that is modern, urban and globally connected, the relevance of Sím Satire can become questioned. However, rather than dismissing it as a negative, tourism is critical to place identity in parts of Ireland, although consideration must be given to the impact of the tourist gaze. Irish tours by the company were an effort by the then artistic director Oliver Hurley to make the company more relevant to Irish audiences. Recognising the popularity of folk theatre to tourists, he also wished that it would be relevant to Irish audiences and that performances for tourists would not be their only focus. While most of the company's productions have featured as part of the summer season, which is attended primarily by tourists, Fado and Elan have become standards that present a romanticised rural idyll. Other productions are more challenging artistically and thematically, but foreground local stories and identities. It is perhaps, as asserted by geographer David Harvey, that the elaboration of place-bound identities have become more rather than less important in a world of diminishing spatial barriers to exchange, movement and communication. Herein, 3 productions are briefly considered: Ding Dong Dedero from 1991, Tarman from 2006 and Moriarty from 2009. While the company embarked on a number of international tours from the 1970s onwards, it remained local, inhabiting local performance spaces in Tralee and other small towns in Kerry, constructing training centres in rural areas in 1974 and 1975, and ultimately realising a purpose-built theatre and art centre that was opened in Tralee in 1991. The opening of the theatre coincided with the premiere of a new production, Ding Dong Dedero, itself a celebration of local dance traditions that were combined with contemporary dance movements in what dance critic Diane Theodoras suggested could transform into a major theatre dance company of Ireland. In his dissertation on contemporary dance, Fergus O'Conachua writes, as home of the National Folk Theatre of Ireland, Sím Satire is a repository of local folk culture presented on stage in music and dance performances. Through its distinctive Munich style of step dancing, the company is strongly identified with its North Kerry location, despite its national title. Ding Dong Dedero opens with the sound of a blacksmith's hammer hitting the anvil. The scene, set in a blacksmith's forge, reveals a community who respond to the sounds of their environment through dance. A sage sings a prophecy of a young Mai born to the blacksmith. At the end of Act 1, the boy traces the shapes in the forge and dances on the anvil. Spirits emerge from the fire in a dance sequence that suggests an otherworldly aspect to the dance. In the second half, the dance master teaches the young pupils, who themselves go on to develop the dance form, replicating the story of Sím Satire itself. The central character of the production is Jeremiah Mullineaux, or Jerry Munnix, viewed as the last of the travelling dance masters of North Kerry. The dance style of this community was collected by Sím Satire and Muckra's House, and forms an archive from which the company can draw material and inspiration. The story of Munnix was, for a period of time, also central to the summer performances by children training for the company in training centres located in Fanug and Carrig. In his book on Riverdance, Barrow Canada reflects on the importance of Sím Satire as a precursor to the global phenomenon and refers to the production of Ding Dong Dedero, stating, there was a cast of 90 between the ages of 10 and 70. 12 were from the original production of 1968. Many came out of retirement to be part of this historic event. The enormity of the cast reflected the desire to include the local community that was Sím Satire, from original members to new members, reinforcing the sense of local connectivity and regional importance. The building in which Ding Dong Dedero premiered is also significant for its architecture. Located in the town park within walking distance of the town centre, but with the Slieve Mish Mountains in the background, the building is modelled on Staig, Ringfort and South Kerry. The building benefited from local fundraising and government support and is a prominent structure in the townscape of Tralee to the present. It also serves the local community beyond the activities of the resident folk theatre company, hosting performances by local musical and theatre groups, schools and touring performers. It is worth noting that the grave of Molyneux picture here is the centre point for commemorations led by Father Pat Ahern in recent years. Although not from the area, ethnochoreologist Catherine Foley has undertaken extensive research on the dance traditions of North Kerry, which unearthed information on a number of figures, including Maureen, a dancing master from the area. While she acknowledges that the company had considered producing a show around the time of the famine for a number of years, in her article on Tarman, Catherine Foley highlights her role in the development of the production, stating, "Knowledge of the death certificate and information supplied with it gave impetus to Sím Satira to produce the show." According to Foley, in North Kerry, Maureen was a well-known itinerant dancing master who travelled around the south of Ireland and North Kerry with a fiddler named Buckley Shanahan to teach the fashionable dances of the day. Maureen was born in 1823 and died in 1878. As with the choreographers that Sím Satira had worked with previously, Foley represents an outside figure who contributes to local knowledge and artistic development. In Tarman, which is translated as Refuge, which ran from 2006 to 2009, despite the jollity of the dance, the concept is overtly dark and gloomy, focusing on one of the darkest periods in modern Irish history. In the famine scene, dancers are seen trying to pull potatoes from the ground, with the soundtrack echoing the hymn Deus Meus, played in canon on the piano, perhaps an indication of the importance of religion. For Moriarty in 2009, Sím Satira continued their collaboration with writer Michael Harding, who also took the lead role in this production. North Kerry philosopher and writer John Moriarty, pictured here, was from the same village as Father Pat Ahern and was a close friend of the founding artistic director of the company. He was a strong supporter of the vision for Sím Satira and wrote about the importance of folk culture. As with Tarman, there is a darkness to the production. Just as Moriarty incorporated a global philosophical wisdom into his writings, many of which were completed while resident in rural Ireland, Sím Satira has incorporated influences from many different cultures. O'Cineda and Phelan have both acknowledged the input of choreographers from other places beyond the local, but it is the sustained local presence through performance, the incorporation of kinesthetic markers in the choreography, and the celebration of local themes and stories that contribute to the regeneration of culture in the region. In all of its productions, the cast of Sím Satira embody a local sense in their performances, primarily through the Munnick style of dance. They remain located locally in Kerry, with their principal theatre in the town of Tralee. The first productions by the cast were based on local memory and customs, and aspects of local culture remain present throughout most subsequent productions. Kinesthetic markers such as the use of the Blackbird set dance, sonic markers such as the use of 4-part SATB arrangements of the Irish language song with a nasally sound, and the involvement of primarily local artists in the cast reinforce the sense of regionality and community in the cast. This does not exclude performers who become part of the performing company for a period of time, or the involvement of collaborating artists including choreographers, writers, set dancers and composers. In contrast with the original productions that over time were critiqued as overly focused on satisfying tourists, Tarman and Moriarty provide darker representations of less jovial aspects of Irish history and life. Whereas Tarman reflects the turmoil of the potato crop failure, Moriarty reflects the inner turmoil of the human mind. They meet the demands of the 1972 document in terms of educating local audiences about local culture. Ding Dong Dedero perhaps best represents the regeneration and regionalisation of theatre in Kerry through its focus on the North Kerry step dancer Jeremiah Molyneux, its involvement of a large local community cast, and its coexistence with the opening of a new theatre building that continues to serve theatrical development in the region. For over 6 decades, the company has contributed to the local tourist industry, the training of young performers, and enriched the local art scene, while also engaging in the representation of Ireland internationally, engaging with artists from other cultures, and searching for identity in folk art. This identity, its construction and representation, is continuously evolving. Garmalgiv.
Thank you very much, Deity, for a nice present. We have listed an interesting topic in the context of transmitting and sustainability of regional identity by the way of folk theatre in Ireland as intangible cultural heritage. I think. And I have a question to Deity, if it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, is there only one family to carry of folk theater tradition? As far as I can understand, there is a Siamsa. It's like a family or community?
So it's a community, but it's often described, when I've done some of my research, I grew up as a member of the company, and when I went interviewing other members, both older members who were there before me and since newer members, a common theme that they often say is Shimsa is like a family, because I suppose it's a group of people that share a lot of interests, but the nature of rehearsing and developing performances, they become very close. So it's there's quite a number of real families, but actually within the cast as well, it's very common for several members of a family to be part of it. So for example, even the founding members, Pat Ahern was the director, but his brother Sean featured in one of the photographs there. He was one of the main singers.
Yeah.
And I highlighted Oliver Hurley, who was an artistic director for a period of time. His wife and 3 of his children, his two brothers, and members of the company also. So there is a strong element of family there, but in addition to that element of family, there's also the sense of community being like a family.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from presenter Maria, Saman, also Nick, Sean? Are there any questions?
No, just thank you so much. That was very interesting presentation. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best for the future research.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deity. Let's pass to Shandu paper. Again, see you again. I hope face to face in the near future. Thank you very much. Goodbye, Deity. And Shandu, the title of the Gatha of the Navadurga between divine and human roles, University of Bologna, Italy. Shandu, Bologna Üniversitesi'nin İtalya'dan katılıyor sempozyumumuza. Şimdi kendisi Google Meet üzerinde aktif. Kendisine bir merhaba diyeceğiz. Ardından da bize göndermiş olduğu videoyu izlemeye başlayacağız ve ardından da birkaç sorumuz olacak kendisine. Hi Sean.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello. Fine, you?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention. It's very important for us. And your topic is very interesting, I think. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, my presentation is about the hybrid identity of this group of ritual dancers. So, let's start it?
Yes, let's start. Başlayabiliriz.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the Association of Ethnomusicology for giving me a chance to present my paper in the 3rd International Symposium about music, dance, and identity. My name is Shan. I'm a PhD student in ethnomusicology at the University of Bologna. In this presentation, I'd like to talk about the hybrid identity of the dancers of Navadurga performance, which is the main topic of my doctoral research. Navadurga is a Bhaktapur ritual dance in Nepal. Nava means 9. The Navadurga are the 9 female manifestations of the goddess Durga, a tantric deity of the Hindu religion. Among the 9 deities, Mahalakshmi is the central energy of the group and is represented by silver bas-relief. The other 8 goddesses are all represented by clay masks. During the performance, the dancers wear masks and are considered living goddesses by the devotees. In addition to the female deities, there are also 2 male deities and 2 zoomorphic deities who serve as the messengers of the goddesses. The Navadurga, excluding the goddess Balkumari, are also called Ashtamatraka. It means 8 mother goddesses, whose sanctuary surrounds the city of Bhaktapur and built a geographical mandala that protects the territory. Different from the other immortal Hindu deities, the Navadurga contain within themselves a group of deities whose life cycle goes from Dasain or Durga Puja in October to Bhagasti in June of the following year. During the 9 months, there are 12 masked dancers and 3 musicians of the Bamala caste, male, who regularly perform ceremonies and dances in various places in the Bhaktapur region. 21 neighborhoods in Bhaktapur and 19 villages around the city. All ceremonies are accompanied without exception by ritual actions, so animal sacrifice, which are performed by the dancers of 2 main deities, Bhairava and Mahakali. After 9 months of life, the mask, together with the patra, a hemispherical shaped ball made from the human skull, are burned, and part of the ashes are collected and mixed with the fresh clay to build the new masks for the next cycle. The rebirth and the death of the Navadurga reflect human cyclic life. They represent the idea of samsara of the Hindu religion. The ritual performance of Navadurga is a representative tradition of today's Newari, who present themselves as the native of the Kathmandu Valley, but the performance in its origin had a relevant territorial character. The performance history dates back to the 1512. It was established by King Subarnamala, while the term Nevar was first used more than a century later, in 1642. The date of establishment of the performance is very close to the division of the kingdom of Mala, and Bhaktapur, the former capital of the United Kingdom, like Kathmandu and Patan, has become an independent state. If the court of Ashtamatraka was established between the 12th and the 13th centuries from the first king of the Mala dynasty to protect the whole country, the performance of the Navadurga can be an imitation made by his descendant to consolidate the newly built state and to defend the Bhaktapur people from external disturbances. Durga literally means invincible. Together with its warlike manifestations as an icon of the state of Bhaktapur, were evoked by the Mala king, literally means fighter, to protect the new order after the disorder of the division. Since performance has the meaning of protection, the Navadurga community and officers, both political and military, always have a close relationship. According to the account of Lakshmi Kumar Bamala, one of my informants, Nepal was protected from the tantric power of the Navadurga during various conflicts with China and with the East India Company, particularly during the first conflict with Tibet. The true Tibetans were defeated because the king asked the Navadurga for help. To this day, the Nepalese army still maintains the custom of worshipping warlike goddesses. Officers irregularly come to the house of the gods to give offering in the name of the army. The Navadurga, in addition to their political and military character, also represent the mother, so means Matraka. They feed the land and of the Bhaktapur when they live. They have an intimate relationship with the people. The life cycle of the Navadurga corresponds to the agriculture moments, in particular the Siddhinaka and the Bhagasti. Siddhinaka is the 14th day of the crescent moon of the month May or June in our calendar, represents the end of the dry season. On this day, the dancers must complete the last performance of their life cycle and the farmers start sowing rice. On Bhagasti's day, however, 70th day after the Siddhinaka, according to local tradition, the first rain of the monsoon season should arrive. On the same day, the dancers cremate the mask and the ashes are collected in a vase which is placed in a prescribed place in the river so that the Navadurga can nourish the earth and encourage the growth of rice. The devotees of Navadurga go beyond the ethnic boundary, which again validated the territorial character of the performance in question. When the Navadurga community conducts ceremonies in Pashupatinath, in addition to the countless devotees who come to the prescribed place for offering, the men dancers are often invited home by wealthy devotees to perform a private ritual. Among these are also the Bahom, the upper caste of the Balpatia people, former inhabitants of Bhaktapur. Inviting the dancers home is a tradition handed down from previous generations, and in this sense, Navadurga's performance has become a bridge connecting the land of origin and one's ancestors. Female deities are personified by male dancers. Unlike the attribution to men of female roles in the general theatrical tradition, in the performance of Navadurga, the phenomenon should be read in terms of gender non-binarism. Durga, also called Mahishasuramardini, is a warlike goddess formed by the collective power of the male gods to fight with the buffalo demon Mahisha. Durga, together with its manifestations, represents the fusion and fluidity of genders. In fact, in the performance, the masks show little distinction of sex, and the dance is devoid of effeminate imitation, which recalls the sexual ambiguity of the Hindu pantheon. In particular, the androgynous god Ardhanarishvara, a figure half man and half woman. From his body, the first female of the universe, Sati or Parvati, who is the consort and the power of Shiva, has split. The supreme god and his consort are none other than Purusha, the ultimate principle and inactive energy, and Prakriti, the cosmic substance, active energy, represented respectively by the male and female sex. Without Prakriti, Purusha, it does not manifest, and without Purusha, the world is totally deceived by the clouding power of Prakriti, Maya, the illusory phenomenon. Therefore, the woman, separated from the body of the male, is the power of creation, activates the male to manifest itself and therefore to dance. The complementarity of inactive and active power is achieved thanks to the union of the two opposite sexes. In the case of the performance, it is expressed by the male dancers under female masks. The Navadurga and his dancers have gone beyond the differentiation of genders, at least the standardized one, which now express little value in the context in question. The union between the dancers and the deities also represents, in a symbolic way, the teo-anthropocosmic vision of non-dualistic Shivaism. The Brahman, or the Absolute, is not external to the human body, and the divine world manifests itself solely through the phenomenon of this world. Man and divinities are two inseparable entities. In fact, in the performance of the Navadurga, it is precisely the sensitive world that is staged. The deification on the one hand and the impersonation on the other identify two apparently heterogeneous worlds. The dancing deities are a mirror of the spectators. They look only at themselves. And the dancers are the indispensable mediators, making the divine world visible and tangible. And in the meantime, they use the superiority of the deities to transmit the dharmic codes. I quote a scene that has a relevant feature in the education. The goddess Mahakali, after defeating the demon, goes to the river to wash. The Swadobhairava, a young and comic figure, hides behind the bush to spy on the naked goddess. His improper behavior angers the Mahakali, and to propitiate the goddess, Swadobhairava offers her the money collected by the spectators. But the goddess doesn't come down. At this point, Swadobhairava offers a roaster prepared by some spectators. After sacrificing the animal, the goddess comes down. Well, the messages conveyed by this scene are three. First, spying on a woman is improper behavior. Second, to propitiate the divinities, it is necessary to make offerings. Third, the sacrifice has a higher value than material offerings. To reach an object, a sacrifice must be conducted. In this case, the performance is comparable to the Vedic commandment, using the narrative contents of another space-time dimension to demonstrate a doctrinal truth. The merits come from certain religious actions. The dancers, uniting with the deities, give the blessing to the devotees, and in the meantime transmit the religious and moral value, which are part of a collective knowledge that has been inherited from previous generations and according to which people today still live fully. Bamala have been repeating the same repertoires for centuries and involve devotees through body language. They express themselves, represent a collective identity for the outside world, and reinforce their belonging to every moment of change and crisis, such as today. But paradoxically, the people who have the authority to transmit knowledge during the performance are the same people whose voice is heard less because of their subordinate status in society. The Bamalas live in two identities simultaneously. When they wear masks, their identity is immediately transformed from human beings and from lower caste men to divinities, and when they return to everyday life, they face various difficulties and challenges. Although the caste social system was abolished in 1962 in Nepal, the differentiation of caste in Nepali society is still felt today. Roughly speaking, caste among Nepali can be divided into two categories: water acceptable and water unacceptable. In Levy's classification, the Bamala or Gata is the 13th in a total of 20 castes and are part of the last group of water acceptable. Bamala and Gata are two terms used by the local people to name the caste of dancers. Bamala is their surname, instead Gata is a pejorative title. It indicates their original profession, the gardener who dealt with the cultivation of flower for ritual use. In fact, the dancers present themselves as Bamala, while for the rest of the caste, the title of Gata remains. The divine assignment has created a segmentation of the same caste. For the Bamala, those who sell the flowers are foreigners and they feel superior to them, even if the economic situation of the gardeners is better than that of the Bamala. Apparently, it seems that Bamala from Bhaktapur are divine dancers and the rest of the caste are gardeners, but the division of occupation is rather self-attributing than effective. It's undeniable that divine rules overturned the social status of the caste in question, but only in a symbolic way. Their living conditions are not improved thanks to the sacred rules. Indeed, this task of handing down the tradition has raised various problems in their daily lives. Divine rules are assigned and then replaced every year. The offerings received during the performance are few, and government measures are of little concrete support. In short, the precariousness and low income make it difficult to sustain life. Therefore, the dancers themselves have to deal with the various professions despite their work being often interrupted by the incompatible schedule of the performance. All these have caused an exaggerated attitude of the dancers towards the devotees, which is more and more evident today. On some occasions, the insistence on asking for offer from the dancers is excessive, especially when in the presence of the foreign tourist. Hardly anyone can live without giving anything. Certainly, the reason why the situation has worsened are various. For example, the collapse of the monarchy in Nepal has caused the Navadurga community to lose the funding of the royal family. Most of the land allocated to the community is used for other purposes, and so on. In short, for a series of external problems, the Bamala are no longer a subgroup of Gata, whose profession was that of dancers. They have become a group of people with various occupations who can dance professionally. This means that their solid identity built starting from the profession is dissolving. Another problem raised by the assignment of divine roles is the lack of school education. The long term of the performance requires a large investment of time and energy, and some dancers were forced to interrupt the study, and few of them managed to recover it. Most dancers in the 40-60 age group have attended school for only a few years, especially for those who have a central role in the community. Their families are assigned more shifts than the others. Narayan Prasad Bammala, 47 years old, is one of the central members. His family has a shift every year. Up to this year, he has played the various divine roles for 34 years, and for the next cycle was again assigned Bhairava, a primary role that requires a greater investment of time. Naturally, he abandoned the study as soon as he accepted to impersonate the divine identity, and as a duty, he has no choice. The same situation also applies to the other key figures in community. His son, Lakshmi Prasad Bammala, 23 years old, from an early age started playing in the secondary roles such as Sima or Duma. They are the roles that require less effort. In this way, he was able to carry on the study. Since the divine role is hereditary, the younger generation should continue this tradition without hesitation. But when I asked Lakshmi if in the future he would like to devote himself totally to the activities of the Navadurga like his father, he did not give me a clear answer. He told me that in this generation, the young Bamala expressed little interest in the tradition of the Navadurga. In his family, all his cousins have abandoned the divine roles, therefore he, as the only one available, must voluntarily or not take the responsibility. It seems that the tradition of the performance in question is less and less compatible with modern life. In addition to the problems we have just talked about, we can't neglect the social situation in general. For example, the influence of Western culture, the popularization of the mass media, the prevalence of the monetary economy, all these elements surround the new generation and change their perspective of life day by day. Besides, the complex situation of the villages that host also discourages the Navadurga community. From time to time, the dancers are attacked by drunk people during the performance, and the logistic organization is questionable. In today, the young Bamala who have acquired a high level of study have more or less moved away from the performance of the Navadurga. The divine role, in some cases, has become an object of purchase and sale among the Bamala. This demonstrates an explicit disinterest. I'd like to conclude with a brief consideration of the current situation of the performance. The performance of the Navadurga is a distinctive symbol of the Newar people. Its territorial character is absorbed by the ethnic identity due to the need to distinguish itself from other peoples, in particular from the Parpatia who migrated to the valley in the 18th century and conquered the valley of Kathmandu in 1768-1769. This witnessed the collapse of the Malla dynasty in which the Newar culture reached its peak. The cultural battle of the Newari has never ceased. Nevertheless, today, following the domination of the Parpatia, there remains a minority that has maintained its language and culture but is in crisis. The current condition of Navadurga performance demonstrates a discrepancy between collective and individual needs. On the one hand, Nevari, as a minority, needs to reinforce their identity through the performance in question because, according to the research that I conducted, this is the last remaining ritual performance thanks to the hybrid identity of Bamala. Instead, the others have more or less become entertainment shows. On the other hand, the Bamalas, as central characters of the discourse, wish to improve the condition of life, and divine assignment is increasingly an impediment in this perspective. Moving away from the tradition of the performance in question is also disinterested in the Bamala identity, which was built thanks to the performance and from a social-political point of view is a tool to challenge the label given by the state in terms of caste. To be all a modern person, all being Bamala, but it is not a dichotomous issue per se. The dancers could be modern Bamala without any contradiction. It is the external elements which are then internalized have prevented the possibility of making these two identities converge. The hybrid identity of Bamala today has become a problematic discourse and sounds in an ironic tone. Divinities live worse than the men.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks.
Very interesting topic and presentation. And as far as I can understand, Gata of Navadurga is a very important role and actor, and to understand the role of divine and human.
Yes.
And I wonder, family identity have to carry male dancer mostly? Is it a rule?
Yes, in this case, because it's a ritual dance of the Hindu religion, so the major part, not only the Navadurga, and for the other kinds of dance, the major part of the dancers are only the men. And the woman is for some question because, as the dancers has explained to me, because the women, they have not so strong body, and also for the problem of the menstruation, so it's considered impure.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to say that, but until today, the local people still believe this regular. So especially in the Navadurga's case, it's very important, as I discussed before. In the ancient time, it's a royal dance, and also in today, like it seems like all the society, Neva society, works well thanks to the Navadurga dance. So for various reasons, only the men can become the dancers. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of this, although this rule, female identity and to show femininity is important. It's very conflict subject, I think.
Yes, because like also the Durga and the Nava Durga, they are the female, but they are the females with a male nature.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed figure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from presenter from Meet, Google Meet? Deity, Mariette?
Perhaps,
Deity?
yeah, perhaps if I may, I'm also very interested in this idea that it's male dancers representing female, and I know you've given a good reason for that. Are there other opportunities outside of religious events or ceremonies for girls or women to dance? Or is this rule only applied to dance with religion, or are there even other contexts for dance in this area?
Yeah, but before the 1980 or 1990, all the musicians and all the dancers in every occasion have to be the men. But from the 1990, there slowly there are some girls and women become to play the musical instrument and to become the dancer, but not in the ritual occasion. Yeah.
Okay. And if I may follow up on that, you mentioned that there are more perhaps tourists or outsiders attending some of these events or rituals. Has that had a big influence on it, or has it brought any income? I know you mentioned the difficulties with the finance and the end of sponsorship from the royal family, but have the coming of tourism, has that given a different economic input into what's happening?
But actually, like the foreign tourists that they stay there and takes a photo, takes a video, and only like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They don't follow all the ceremony. So the dancers, if they see, okay, there is the tourist is from Europe, from American, it means they are rich. So they collect this occasion to ask money. But I have to say that they're never aggressive, never. Like they ask you like for some money or beer or food. If you don't want, okay, you can you have to give them. Yeah.
Okay.
So there isn't a very strong engagement from this audience with the ritual or with the locals.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to say like I don't know if somebody interested to the research in Nepal, but the tourism in today is create some problem. I mean, some tourists go there, also some researchers go there to do the research. But so there, the tourism created a job like the guide, but the guide, if you go there, decide, okay, if you want to do the research, come with me. I can share you every information you want. But actually, they don't have enough knowledge, or they answer you in the way you want, because you guys like the first time one asks why there is no woman in this dance, they told because the woman is a little bit weaker than the man. It means the physical. But the reality is that they consider the woman as impure. You know, they give you the different answer because they guess you want to know this, or that in Europe there is a movement, feminism movement, so they didn't answer you the reality. I don't know if I explained.
That's very good. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sean. Have a nice day again. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation and topic. See you again, I hope.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Let's pass to Mariette Berdikul. Could you open your voice, Mariette?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much. I'm fine, and you?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention and your interesting topic. Let's start soon. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. And uh, dear participants of this symposium, thank you so much for your attention. And I starting to my presentation, and my topic, name of my topic is Post-Colonial Discourse of Studying the Song Culture of Kazakhs of the 20th Century. My name is Mirwert Berdikul, and I'm first year PhD candidate of Kazakhstan History Department at Aba University. I'm not musician, I'm not a cultural expert, etc. as you, but I study history, Kazakh history. But our objects like the same, music and song. So I started to be a participant of this symposium, and thank you so much for organizators that they invited me to this symposium. And so the aim of the paper is to find out how Kazakh identity is changing through the time by song culture. I choose 20th century. And for preparing this paper, I use methods for research like study of Kazakh identity through audiovisual materials, YouTube materials, own materials, and for the and also I use discourse analysis of song lyrics, and I use Menin Kazakhstanım, this is Kazakh anthem at the present time, and using homemade approaches such as hybridity, mimicry, etc. Ambivalency, and also I use published memories and private conversations. So in the context of large-scale migration of ethnic groups around the world, frequent changes in politics, economy, and other spheres of life, the question, who am I? To find the answer to these questions in the context of study of the Kazakh ethnos, in the 20th century, we began to look for the possible research objects through which the identity of the Kazakh could be identified. In our opinion, one of the striking tools for the study of the identity of Kazakhs are songs and music. So we want to start our speech with the story of Kazakh legend according to the witch. According to the witch, a long time ago, a cruel Khan lived on the Kazakh land, who did not spare anyone. He had a real love for only one person, his son, and his son loved hunting. The ruler did not like the dangerous infatuation of the hare. Every time he went to the forest, he discouraged him as best he could. Once, the Khan's son went hunting alone, accompanied by servants. The young man did not return. His grief-stricken father sent servants to find him, ordering him not to return without good news. And to those who come with the sad news, the Khan promised to fill the throat with a molten lead. In complete horror, the servants went in search of the hare and found him under a tree. His body was torn to pieces by a wild boar. What to do? How to return to the Khan with such news? And then the one person advised to servants to take one wise shepherd with them. He made a musical instrument and played a very sad melody on it to the Khan. After listening to the music to the end, the ruler understood without words that his son would never return home, but this did not prevent him from carrying out his order. The holes of the musical instrument were filled with molten lead. And you can see musical video of a Kazakh singer, Zarina Altunbayeva, and she shows in her music video this legend. And you can see that this minute.
Marriott,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, would you take off your headset to hear video voice, video sound?
You do not hear?
No,
Hmm.
because you have to take off your headset.
Okay. You don't hear, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. But you can see it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think this is
yeah.
some, yeah. This is that legend. Uh, and the Han understood that his son never returned. The holes of the music instrument were filled with molten lead, as you can see on the video. Okay, and the next slide. This is Alexander Zatayevich in the center of this photo. This is the most famous collector of Kazakh songs on our steppe. He collected all songs from the whole of our steppe, and you know that Kazakh territory very big, and mentalities are different in the west and east side of Kazakh people, and the music is different also because of our different mentality. And he also wrote about it. So that first example with video clip, this example shows how people perceive musical notes as human speech. And in this slide, you can see that during 20 centuries, Kazakh people has very dramatic and tragic events, like in 18th century, we started to annexation to Russian Empire. And of course, and as we use Homi Prapras methods, we have, at the present time, we not have any clear Kazakh mentality, but we have hybrid mentality. And so you can see on the slide first picture. This is Kazakh man in national dress for men with epaulets on shoulder. This emblem is from Russian Empire, but this is Kazakh man, and this is dress for Kazakh woman, but also like Russian women's. And this man, this is only clear Kazakh man. And of course, we can see hybrid culture. We started in the 1730s, the accession of the Kazakh Khanate to the Russian Empire began. If before this period of the Kazakh steppes, the people lived according to the customary law of Kazakhs, the laws of Tauke Khan Jetezharg'a in 17th century, then since the annexation of the Kazakh Khanate to the Russian Empire, Russian culture began to spread more and more on the territory of modern Kazakhstan, which can also in the semiotic analysis of clothing. Epaulets appear on the traditional outlet clothing of the Kazakhs, shapan, a sign that they are civil servants. The great Kazakh poet, philosopher Abay Kunanbayev begins to translate the works of Russian poet Alexander Pushkin. This translation began to be sung on the Kazakh steppe in the accompaniment of the Kazakh national music instrument Dombra. But I wanted to show you, but you cannot hear it because of problem, unfortunately. But you can see this girl, Aizat Karabekova, her name. She's with accompaniment Dombra, Kazakh national music instrument. She sings a song in Kazakh language, translating of works of Alexander Pushkin works. So, next. In 1916, because of decree of Russian Tsar, on the recruitment of 500,000 men aged 19 to 43, a national liberation, the uprising of the Kazakh began. At this time, the mournful cues of Seyteka called Year 16 is published. QE, this is product of Kazakh instrumental songs. And you know that in 1916 it was First World War, and Russian side decided to hunter the 500 young men from Kazakh people. Of course, Kazakh people was very angry with this news and started to their liberation, national liberation, and national liberation. Because of this situation, our Seyteka composed the new song like Year 16, and this man playing on Dombra, that QE. QE, as I explained it, product of Kazakh instrumental songs. So he's playing, but unfortunately you can also not hear. Okay, next video, this is things, you know that in according to chronological situation of Kazakh history, after 1916, in 1917, whole world see new country named Soviet Union, and we, Kazakhstan, were one part of that country. Since the creation of the Soviet Union, the main goal of the new government has been to create a new man, a Soviet man. Russian became the main language. Mostly Kazakh was spoken in village and auls. The urban space spoke Russian. New traditions have come to Kazakhstan for celebrating the new year on the night of December 31st to January 1st, which was not the case before. Song appeared that began to personify an entire era. The Kazakhs have a song, second language, which they speak no worse than their native language. For example, the video of Kazakh people's artist of Rosa Rymbayeva sing a song composer Pulse in Russian before the new year. This song became massive, popular in 1979. So we're observing how to the Soviet Union they constructed a person previously unknown to the world, a Soviet person. You can see this is Kazakh girl, our very famous singer, Rosa Rymbayeva. But she likes not Kazakh, but she's so modern. She's totally Soviet woman and sing a song in Russian language. You know that in Kazakhstan we speak in two languages natively, in Kazakh and Russian also. So the next, this is semantic elements of the song. This is discourse analysis of our main song anthem, which translating My Kazakhstan. According to the discourse analysis of song, we took as an example Shamshi Kaldayakov's song Menin Kazakhstanam, My Kazakhstan. The history of this song is amazing and most of all reveal the essence of Kazakhs, created by the composer in the 50s of the last century in protest of the transfer by Nikita Khrushchev of the primordial Kazakh lands to neighboring countries. Later, in the brutal events of 1968, the same song became the anthem of the young. When the young people went to a peaceful rally on the square of the city of Almaty in protest against the removal of Kunayev from his post and the appointment of the person who had never lived in Kazakhstan instead. Now this song serves the Kazakh people as the anthem of independent Kazakhstan. You can see translating of this this song. Okay. In 1991, Kazakhstan acquires its independence. Ethnic culture is reviving in a country where new rules and traditions have been for 70 years. The national holiday Nowruz is coming. You can see, maybe you know, this is very famous instrumental music group which calls Ulutau Kazakh group, and they have a lot of business trips to Turkey. Also, they made concerts in Istanbul, Bursa, Ankara cities, because this is new format and new genre of performance Kazakh traditional instrumental music with new West music instruments. So, since the departure of Iron Curtain, new genres have come in music, such as jazz, rock, indie rock, rap, hip-hop, etc. Nevertheless, the ethnic identity of the Kazakhs has been preserved. New musical groups are emerging, but with new European musical instruments. Now traditional instrumental cues sounds different than when they were created. As you can see on the video. Okay, next slide. This is concert of our very famous and new singer. His name is Dimash Kudaibergen. And you know that he likes singing a song in Kazakh language. Why Kazakh people at the present time wants to sing a song only in, most of all in Kazakh language? Because we want to show our culture to whole of the world. Because during 70 years, I speak in another language with a different culture, hybrid mentality. At the present time, our Dimash Kudaibergen wants to say that we have own culture, own identity. We are Kazakh people, and this is his concert in New York City. And he sing a song, Daydi Dao. This is national Kazakh sing in Kazakh language on the stage of New York City. And I research identity through music practices, sing-song practices. So we also imagine picture with how ordinary people sing a song through the circle of their close friends, close colleagues, and this performance shows their identity, their Kazakh, with using their unique codes like language, dress, etc. So, as Diana Omuji, a lecturer of philosophy at the University of London Goldsmiths, knows that music in general evokes emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, fear, surprise. As a result, music is the main lever of influence of the consciousness of people. So the song means this is a mirror of everyday life, and by it you can determine the feelings of the peoples of a particular era. Analyzing the events of today at the very peak of people being forced to stay in their homes due to the coronavirus pandemic, people began to compose and sing songs that inspire hope and confidence in the victory over the virus, in which they sing about empathy, compassion, support, and understanding of the current situation. And singing from the balconies of apartments buildings, accompanied by applause, is a sing of support for each other, those song practices that historians will write about in their textbook describing 2020. Thus, summarizing the above using the concepts that Homi Bhabha identified, such as hybridity, mimicry, ambivalence, the Orientalism of Edward Said, we come to this conclusion that one of the manifestations of changes of the song culture was the hybrid state of performance. The choice of the genre of the song, musical instruments, cultural code during the 20th century. At the same time, the influence of songs on the ethnic self-awareness of the Kazakh population is clearly expressed, because a song for Kazakhs has the value of a motivator as an instrument of protest and pride also. So, thank you so much for attention. If you have any questions, I'm ready to give answer. Uh, uh,
Sorry,
Excuse
sorry.
me.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. Can you
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
hear you. Yeah. Well,
I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. Very interesting paper, and especially in the context of post-colonial discourse. And
yes.
I wonder. I have a question about lyrics, and then. You show to us in 1956 and 2006, I think. I'm right? I think 2006
Yes.
lyrics include more nationalistic expression, as far as I can understand. Is it true or not?
Good questions. Thank you so much. This is our anthem, Kazakh people, and this song was made in 1956. You can see this first reduction
Okay.
on the right side.
Yeah.
And in 2006, this song started to be our anthem in according to the order of our first president Nazarbayev. And he changed some of words of this song and made them more humanity.
Okay.
So you can see with the big letters that what changed, and you can see that this is more polite words in 2006 reduction.
Okay.
This version more polite, more humanity.
Yes.
Because we're independent people now. But in 1956, it was very strong, hard, and motivator words. So this is different between two reductions.
Yeah. And also, do Kazakh musicians or production firm use world music label for the new genre?
Yes. I show you in this presentation a little bit part of my research, but at the present time we have different genres like K-pop, we have Kazakh pop and rap, hip hop, etc. Different genres, but but in Kazakhstan wants to sing a song in Kazakh language. Because during 70 years we have no any chance to speak in our native language.
Only Kazakh's language or Russian?
Russian, of course, we use Russian.
Yeah.
But more. Last year, not only Kazakh people, you know that in Kazakhstan lives multinational. Kazakhstan, this is multinational country.
Yes,
and other nationalities like Russian, Belarus, Ukraine, etc. They also started to sing a song in Kazakh language because this is our government language.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your answer. Do you have a question, presenter from Google Meet? Sean, Deity, Marriott, Saman? No question, I think. Okay, thank you very much, Marriott. And firstly, I forgot, I'm so sorry, because I have a certificate of attendance as of online, and I will send to your email also this certificate. Thank you very much, Marriott.
Oh, thank you too so much.
Thank you.
Teşekkürler.
And also, Deity, for your
thank you.
Yeah, I will send to you via email.
So great! Thank you so much. In near time, I will come to Bursa, maybe Ankara, maybe Istanbul.
I hope in the near future.
I have a lot of friends in Turkey.
Yeah. Shandu, thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. That's great.
Thank you. And Let's pass to another presentation. I think Saman Panapitya. Could you close your
Yes.
your screen, Marriott?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just a minute.
Cancel, yeah. Okay. Could you close your screen share?
Yeah, close it.
Uh-huh.
Just a minute, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a minute.
Can
I'm
you
so
hear
sorry.
my voice, Saman?
Yeah, I am here. Hello?
Yes, I can hear, but I cannot see your face and your camera.
Okay.
Could you close your voice,
Yeah.
Marriott?
Hello?
Thank you. Hello, Saman. How are you?
I'm good. Okay.
Thank you very much for
I'm
your
fine.
attention and for your very interesting paper and presentation. And I watched your video and very interesting topic. Also, your voice is very nice.
Thank you. Okay.
And let's start to watch your video, your presentation, and we will ask question after that. It's okay?
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I sang a folk song in Sri Lanka. It is a Harvard song, but the song sung by the villagers is different. Today I will talk about that. I would like to make an introduction to this. Ancient man who spent a touristic life had no necessity for permanent housing. That necessity was felt when man commenced dealing with the earth. People who were dependent on grains, leaves and fruits found on the earth later on developed to plant seed and received a yield of crop in return. That is said to be the beginning of the agriculture. Owing to the said industry discovered by men about 10,000 years ago, people's lifestyle began to change. As a result of the activities connected to the said industry, creation of different types of art came into existence. Present day social scientists have tried to explain it as folk arts. Folk arts is one of the most ingredients of people's lives. The accepted belief is that folk art came into existence as an attempt to reproduce by way of a drama in the presence of people different activities that took place in the paddy field and at the threshing floor. In this presentation, we are trying to explain the true nature of folk singings and explain to the relevant features that can create a genuine version. There are several folk song and folk art associated with the agriculture in Sri Lanka. They can be divided into two main categories. Number one, chain farming, and number two, paddy cultivation. Under the chain farming, Fell and Kurakkang folk songs, and under the paddy cultivation, Andahara, planting, harvest, kamat songs can be categorized. There are the main types of singing associated with the chain farming. Number one, Pel Kavi. Pel, it is a temporary house made in the chain. Number two, Kurakkam poems. Kurakkam is a cultivated crops. Kurakkam cultivation has a long history. Elsiuna Korkona is the scientific name of Kurakkam. Kurakkam cultivation has become popular in many parts of the world. Different countries use different names for this. I think Ragi, India. Korkona, France. Tailbone, Arabic. Finger sizes, German. Kansi, China. Kodo, Nepal. Bulu, Uganda. That's I would like to present Palkavi. Palkavi. The hut is built on a branch of the large tree. It is to escape from wild animals, especially to escape from wild elephant. We listen to the Sri Lankan Palkavi. There is a liveliness in this singing. They are sung at night. The danger of the environment has influenced this singing, but the modern generation does not show such future when they sing this singing. They are so sweet and beautiful, just like this singing. Perakale karapu akusal paladila memakale. The difference between those songs is obvious. I like to next Sri Lankan Kurakkam Kavi. Kurakkam poems or Kurakkam folk songs are sung at harvest time. Kurakkam is very difficult to cut. Poems are recited to relieve the fatigue of cutting. We listen to a Sri Lankan folk song of Kurakkam Kavi, Orchid. The tonality of that singing is unheard of in modern singing. There is only sweetness. I would like to present next about paddy cultivation. There are 4 main types of singing. Number 1, underhara. I think you know about yodeling. Yodeling. One of the most popular song style in the world. In Sri Lanka, underhara singing seems to be similar to yodeling singing. This is Sri Lankan underhara songs. This is a song recorded in 1970 by Sri Lankan ethnomusicologist series Kolatilaka.
Apa ho Mira ho atabasa
Those songs are sung while working with cattle. The sound effect of the cattle can be seen in this song. The modern younger generation use this song for various concerts. They focus only on the beauty of the singing. Then Sri Lankan Nelum Gayana, that's called the planting songs. This is a very colorful song style. There are several types of singing that have very subtle variations. I am now presenting to you a Sri Lankan planting song. This is called Osa, Nelum Osa. This is one of the most popular folk singing styles among the modern generation in Sri Lanka. They perform these songs at various concerts on different recording and in different programs. The only thing that can be seen in all those songs is the beauty. The prominence of the folk singing does not apply to them. The main reason for this is that they have not heard the song sung by the villagers. I would like to present to you how the modern generation use this singing on stage.
Navile
next singing type is Goyam Kavi. I think you know harvest song. Harvest songs are sung during the harvest season. The sickle is used to cut the grain. The percussion instrument used for this is the boommedia. Next I will present a playing of boommedia with singing. Harvesting is done according to the rhythm with which the boommedia are played. If the played of boommedia is 2 beats, the crops is harvested twice. If the played of 3 beats, the crops is harvested 3 times. If the played of 5th beat, the crops is harvested 5 times. I think the frequency of harvesting is determined by the drumming. The modern generation can be seen singing these poems extensively, but I think they have not recognized the true creative nature of these poems and nature of these songs. They use the rhythmic instrument and different types of drums of this purpose. I do not see it as a mistake, but I think they could have presented it more clearly if they had studied it realistically. Now we hear a modern generation of harvesting songs. Beautiful, sweet and creative, but it does not show the realism of Sri Lankan folk songs. Next singing type is a threshing floor songs. I think it is considered to be the last singing element of paddy cultivation. We can consider it as a deal with the cattle again cattle. The main singing element here is the singing of Kamat Osu. Separation of paddy seed from grain tree is done in the threshing floor. Cattle are used for this purpose. The cows walk on it and separate the paddy seeds. The song performed at the time belong to this category. These songs really have an inseparable connection with that moment. I would like to bring such a song close to you.
Buddhan saranayata bale, Dhamman saranayata bale, Sangham saranayata bale, Metun saranayata bale. Oira ire oira ma kola medapang oira mo.
This song takes place at night. These songs are associated with a very difficult and bitter tone. These poems reveal the spirituality of the villagers. I see it as an injustice done to them to re-singing this poem without recognizing this spirituality. We see all these songs being sung on modern concert stage and TV shows, but it is not possible to experience that spiritual form of real folk poetry by listening to those poems. Folk poetry has been created with a deep connection to the life of the villagers. Present and singers of modern folk song should understand that bond. Then they will be able to present real folk songs on modern entertainment platform. I would like to present my conclusion. It is clear that modern performances are related to folk song of agro-life style is presented without proper study and review. Thank you so much for listening and waiting for my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you so for the organizing committee of the International Ethnomusicology Symposium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saman. Could you open your voice, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, your camera, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's your presentation is very, very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. I wonder, especially agro lifestyle, and you put your name or common name agro lifestyle in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it is common name. I think
Common
it's
name.
yeah.
And also performing arts emerge and includes mostly work song or farmville song.
Yeah, I think today many folk songs in Sri Lanka are sung by the modern generation.
Yeah.
I see that as the very good thing, but I think they do it without a clear understanding and knowledge of Sinhala folk songs and folk poetry.
Yeah.
I think singing like that can create a wrong image for the new society and for people who like folk songs and folk poetry. My request is, and what I am trying to say in this research is that the new generation have an accurate knowledge of Sinhala folk songs and folk poetry. Then they will be able to do it right. The new generation should sing this after good study. That's my idea.
Thank you. Also, agro lifestyle and its music and dance became so popular song or world music.
That's a work music and work songs and the folk as I think that's a Sri Lankan very popular songs is and Nilum. That's the category.
Okay. Do you have a question from presenter in Google Meet? Sean, Maria, Deity? Yes, Deity, please.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. I really enjoyed that presentation, Saman. And
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, the video of the group performing is it the Andahera song, the yodeling song, where they walked onto the stage with the cow? What is the name of that performing group, or have they a name?
I think there's name is Matra Folk Music Group. It's owner is I am. Sri Lanka is popular folk music team. That's a very good singers. We have a very good singers and for poetry and folk songs. I think you see the underhand and same to Yodel and Yodel.
Okay. Thank you.
Is enough?
Okay, thank you.
And Saman, thank you very much for your
Yeah.
attention.
Thank you. Okay, very nice.
I hope we will meet in the near future. In Turkey, maybe. In Sri Lanka, maybe.
Yeah, okay. And I thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Nice. Okay.
Şimdi acaba Nick burada mı? Bir ara girmişti aslında ama ben buradan anonsunu yapıyorum. And the last last subject is belong to the Dr. Nick Pavlakis from National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, Laboratory of Ethnomusicology and Cultural Anthropology. It's a subject about Greek music and dance performing identities through cinema. Let's go.
Dear colleagues, it's an honor to participate in the online Symposium Music, Dance and Identity, Timbres of Danube, organized by the Hungarian Cultural Center and the Association of Ethnomusicology in Turkey. My name is Nick Poulakis and I am an ethnomusicologist at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens and the Hellenic Open University in Greece. My paper is titled Greek Music and Dance, Performing Identities Through Cinema. Cinema is one of the most popular mass media, but not only as a projection of moving pictures. On the contrary, it emerges as a complex creation through both optical and sound representation. If we define the eigesis according to the contemporary film theory as the fantastic spatio-temporal world where the story takes place, the characters live, and the events of the film's plot occur, components like music and dance significantly enhance the notion of filmic realism. In addition, music and dance performances could be systematically used in a symbolic and semiotic level, highlighting particular aspects of the cinematic medium, since performing arts provide audience identification with the film and its historical and socio-cultural context, and offer direct as well as indirect associations between facts and fiction. Bearing in mind that cinema is considered to be a locus of various representations and negotiations, the analysis of national filmography can effectively portray the ways that film music and dance contribute to the construction and projection of cultural identity. Old Greek cinema gained notable commercial success and still remains highly accepted through present television broadcasting. Given that the linkage between music, dance, and popular film has not been intensely investigated with regards to the Old Greek cinema, my intention is to focus on diverse features of identity performance concerning Greek film, music, and dance during the above-mentioned period. The paper draws attention to the performative practices of audiovisual representation as well as the ambiguous qualities of this special mode of filmography. The so-called Old Greek cinema refers to films created and screened in Greece between the mid-50s and the early 70s, but it mainly covers the 60s period, considered by many to be the golden age of Greek cinema. Old Greek cinema also designates a particular cinematic style as well as a specific mode of creation. The film industry in Greece during the 60s was defined by a massive production of commercial films falling under the three highly popular genres of comedy, melodrama, and musical. These films were intended for wide-ranging middle-class audiences and had distinctive characteristics. Most of them were theatrically arranged, using minimal settings and outdoor locations. Their scenes were composed principally by long shots filmed inside with a still camera. They included many music and dance numbers, which operated as interludes. They were based on a standardized linear narrative structure incorporating these cultural contexts, and finally they were genre and star-centered. A number of these films gained exceptional success in domestic film market and their popularity still remains high. Music and dance in Old Greek cinema play a fundamental role not only in the construction of the film's narrative, but also in the formation of a distinctive artistic and cultural stylization. These films introduced a hybrid cinematic sound and kinetic milieu, which is characteristic of the Greek film and popular music and dance creation, perception, and reception of that era. The association between music, dance, and film in Old Greek cinema has not been analytically explored, although film, music, and dance were considered as important vehicles to explore the formation of cultural identities, the expression of collective memories, the experience of personal emotional situations, and the osmosis between everyday life and the social imaginary. In this context, the terms film music and film dance encompass the notion of popular beyond other local or cultural connotations and categorizations. During the aforesaid period, there was also an exchange of human resources such as directors, screenwriters, composers, choreographers, actors, musicians, dancers, and singers between the cinema, the theater, and the variety shows, which has led to a mutual aesthetic diffusion of cultural and artistic practices and styles. Film, music, and dance in the Old Greek cinema has a dual function. On the one hand, it is used as a narrative component that incorporates the audience into the cultural setting of the film, associated with the realistic, physical, and representational nature of the cinema. On the other hand, it is portrayed in a non-diegetic filmic level that refers to a dreamlike, fictional, and extra-natural feature of the relationship between these artistic modes, music, dance, and cinema, and conveys to the spectators a new reality that is beyond their real life. Through these apparently opposing facts, an ambiguous essence emerges, as the aesthetics of Greek film music and dance differentiated from those of American and European films. Contrary to the other dominant cultural forms of that period, Greek film production, although influenced by the tradition of Western popular cinema, was intended for domestic consumption. It referred to a rather hybrid, mixed identity, rather than an authentic in the sense of a pure one, and this is an attribute also applied to Greek cinematic music and dance. There are too many types of film music and dance forms, the original and the compilation. The original ones are those constructed exclusively for a specific movie. Greek film underscoring of the 60s stabilized the use of Western Symphony Orchestra. The orchestration of the original scores was based on the string section and also included woodwinds, brass, percussion and piano, guided by the classical American tradition, often with some adaptations to operate for the Greek audiences. There were also particular choreographies created for films. On the contrary, the compilation score is pre-existing music adapted to the film according to the needs of the production. The reasons that directed Greek film companies of this period towards the effortless, fast and low-cost solution of the compilation score were the tight timetable for the creation of a new film, the significant increase of the budget in the case of original score, the lack of interest in copyright issues, and the great recognition of previously written popular music pieces that had been available to the general public through the discography and their live music and dance performances in nightclubs. New talented composers who wrote film music scores and choreographers who created special dance arrangements for the movies came to the fore. The majority of them were self-taught but had considerable professional experience in theatre, operetta, vaudeville and other kinds of light and popular Greek music and dance, which obviously helped them during the cinematic production. Cinematic diegesis is the work created by the filmic narrative in which drama emerges. Natural depiction of reality in old Greek cinema was achieved mainly through diegetic music and dance. The most important manifestation of them was the Greek popular songs and their corresponding dances. The qualities of popular music and dance deepened the interaction between the viewer and the film's realistic representation, since they dynamically involve the viewer's physical presence and emotional matching, associating filmic fiction with the spectator's extra-filmic experiences. So film music and dance do not only serve the enrichment of the narrative, but they also magnify the impression that everything that happens in film is much more important than real life itself. Greek popular songs and dances in films followed the above-mentioned parameters based on the preferences and the choices of the producer, the director, the composer and the audiences, and were perhaps the most obvious case of cinematic music and dance performance. Diegetic music and dance in Old Greek cinema establishes the cultural framework of the scenario, giving a sense of authenticity and realism. It also helps the viewer define particular elements of the filmic world in terms of the historical period and geocultural location of the plot, thus creating the film's sonic and kinematic context. One of the most common examples of this category was the actual representation of live music and dance performances through music and dance stage acts in nightclubs. This was a unique feature of Greek films which developed strong performative dynamics because of its extra cinematic cultural references combined with the incidental form of music and dance episodes. In contrast to the classical American movies, instead of stressing the narrative continuum of the film, these events operated as interruptions, interludes, throughout the storyline. While in the case of Hollywood, this would seem incompatible with filmic reality, Old Greek cinema embodied this feature as an established practice, fully justified both in cinematic and in cultural terms. Music and dance episodes in Greek musicals could be considered as a meta-diegetic filmic element, since they hold a key dramaturgical position and play the basic role in constructing the film's narrative. This was another kind of connection between music, dance and the moving images of Old Greek cinema, which included music and dance as structural filmic features, thus leading to complex levels of narrative beyond the obvious borderlines of diegetic and non-diegetic. For example, in the first instance, we may think of music and dance as the main subject of the film. For example, a film that deals with everyday adventures of a group of Greek musicians. Or in the other case, we may associate it with music comedies and musicals, where music and dance numbers serve as organic elements of both the plot and the genre of the film. Improvisation, both in terms of form and content, was a vital component that defined Old Greek cinema. Through this practice, music and dance components were rematerialized, highlighting the very essence of artistic synthesis in cinema, where composers and choreographers are looking for a counterbalance between consistency and diversity. Even though Western European music and dance practices dominated Old Greek cinema as its principal influences, there's no doubt that Greek traditional and popular music and dance had also been fundamental sources of inspiration for film composers and dancers to create audiovisual moods familiar to Greek film audiences. This interesting blend of different music and dance traditions had led to the emergence of new musical and dance styles, whose origins can be traced back in the episodic nature of an earlier form of spectacle, the variety show. Old Greek cinema was a public mass medium in which classical and local music and dance genres had met creatively. Although retaining its eclectic character, it had moved beyond the traditional distinctions between high art and low culture. For instance, in the case of music, the sound of the Western European Symphonic Orchestra had been employed in most of Greek films' non-diegetic scoring. However, classical orchestra was regularly combined or contrasted with local popular music instruments in order to imaginarily allude to Greek national identity. Music played by Greek popular orchestras sounded either on its own or in conjunction with classical instruments in several scenes of these films, especially in musical and music comedies. This combination of Western and Greek ensembles and the attempt to merge Western film music cliché with ethnic national ones eventually resulted in the formation of a mixed, popular symphonic music character. Besides that, it is of equal interest to highlight the presence of jazz, pop, light and folk music ensembles in film scores of the Old Greek cinema, and the performance of corresponding songs and dances, either modern or traditional. This was also closely related to the appearance of popular musicians, actors, singers and dancers in Greek films of the 60s. Most of these artists had been extremely recognized all over the country, and as a result, their reputation increased the popularity of the films as well. Music and dance were essential factors that contributed to the formation of a specific aesthetic style in the Greek cinema of the 60s. Although shaped by foreign influences, this audiovisual mode of production had been adapted to Greek artistic, cultural, social and economic conditions of that era. Thus, it is crucial to examine this subject within the particular historical and cultural context in which film music and dance were created, performed and perceived, emphasizing both the meaning and the context of the films as well as their artistic and ideological uses.
Tekrar merhaba. Sempozyumumuzun son oturumunu izlediniz biraz önce. Ve böylelikle Etnomüzikoloji Derneği olarak üçüncüsünü düzenlediğimiz Uluslararası Etnomüzikoloji Sempozyumu'nun da tamamlamış bulunuyoruz. Şimdi bu kez üçüncüyü düzenlediğimiz sempozyum Macar Kültür Merkezi, İstanbul Macar Kültür Merkezi ortaklığıyla gerçekleşti. Söz konusu ortaklığın içinde sempozyumda fiili olarak yer alan Bursa Uludağ Üniversitesi Devlet Konservatuarı da bulunmaktaydı ve Oğuzhan Balcı'nın sempozyum adına bestelediği Tuna'da Bir Uğur Böceği eserinin ilk seslendirişini gerçekleştirdiler ilk gün. Tabii bunun yanı sıra bizim yereldeki paydaşlarımız oldu bu sempozyumda. Bunların başında Osman Gazi ve Nilüfer Belediyeleri, TÜDAM ve Bursa Uludağ Üniversitesi yerelde bizlere destek olan kurumlar oldu. Fikrin, iyi niyetin, kültür, sanat ve sosyal bilimlerde bilimsel anlamda üretimin geniş çapta paylaşımının, ki bu noktayı şahsım adına önemsediğimi belirtmek isterim, sağlıklı bir şekilde hayata geçirilmesi ancak saydığım bu kurum ve kuruluşların da desteğiyle olabilirdi. Bu destek herhangi bir şekli, düşünceyi dikte etmeden özgür düşünceye saygı çerçevesinde olduğunda daha anlamlı olmakta elbette. İlk kez uyguladığımız bir yolla ulaştık tüm ilgililere bu kez. Az sayıda fiziki katılımcı ve çevrim içi katılımcıların sunumlarının aynı anda Etnomüzikoloji Derneği sosyal medya hesaplarından canlı olarak yayınlanması bizler için yeni bir deneyim. Ve açıkçasını söylemem gerekirse acaba olacak mı, başarabilir miyiz, ulaşabilecek miyiz endişeleriyle ilk güne kadar geldik. Ancak tasarladığımız aktarımı hemen anlayan ve yoğun bir iş akışları olmasına rağmen bizi hem bilimsel ve kültürel bir çalışma yapmaya gayret etmemizden dolayı hem de aynı kentte bulunmamızdan, Bursa'da yaşıyor olmamızdan dolayı neredeyse bizler kadar bu organizasyonu sahiplenen Cemil Bey ve ekibine, CYK Medya'ya çok teşekkür ediyorum. Onlar olmasa tasarımımız kesinlikle bu şekilde hayata geçmezdi. Ben onlar için kuvvetli bir alkış istiyorum. Müzik, dans ve kimlik, Tuna'nın tınıları ana başlığıyla yola çıktığımızda gördük ki, yaşadığımız dijital çağın uzantısı olan ve aynı zamanda pandemi döneminin zorunlu kıldığı iletişim biçimleri sempozyumda yoğun bir şekilde işlenen konular oldu. Etnomüzikoloji disiplininin yeniyi, günceli tespit etme, kayda geçirme, kuramsal düzlemde ele alma noktasında kayda değer tespitlerin yapıldığını düşünüyorum. Etnomüzikolojinin yapısı itibariyle disiplinler arası çalışma biçiminin de nitelikli örneklerini dinleme şansımız oldu sempozyumda. Sosyoloji, antropoloji, tarih bilimi ve tabii müzikoloji ile olan sıkı bağlarının örneklerin yanı sıra özellikle 70'li yıllardan itibaren daha bir yoğunluk kazanan kimlik çalışmaları çerçevesinde çalgı, ses, dinleme pratikleri, yerel ve lokal toplulukların müzik merkezli davranış biçimlerine dair eski ve yeniye ait çıkarımlar bizleri bir kez daha heyecanlandırdı. Sempozyumlarda sonrasında tam metin kitaplarında okurken acaba müzik örnekleri nasıldı dediğimiz çalışmalar, sempozyumun videolu ve sonradan da izlenebilecek sunumları sayesinde ilgilerini bu anlamda da beslediğini düşünmekteyim. Uzun lafın kısası, tam da bir fırsatım varken benim bir çağrım var. 3 yıl önce küçük bir grupla çıktığımız yolda şu an çalışmalarımızda yüzlerce kişiye ulaşmış bulunuyoruz. İlk yola çıktığımızda buna inancı az olan dostlarımız da olmuştur elbet. Veya bu şartlarda bu devam etmez diyen de olmuştur. Ben ve eşim Ersen Varlı Hoca buna çok inandık. Yapılması gerekenleri yüklenmek amacıyla sadece ikimizin kaldığı anlarda çok oldu. Dernek kolektif bir yapıdır. Ancak kimi zaman üyelerimizin de yoğunluğundan dolayı bu yalnızlığı sıklıkla yaşadığımız anlar olmuştur. Bu bir şikayet değil tabii, tam tersine bir çağrıdır. Biz bu derneği bu alandan sivil ve aynı zamanda alternatif bir oluşması ve bu anlamda samimiyetle çalışmalar yapan, üreten herkese yaş, ırk, dil, din, mezhep, ekol, okul gözetmeksizin kurduk. Her yıl 2 dergi çıkarmanın ve bir de basmanın zorluklarını bilenler bilir. Ancak yaşadığımız mutluluğun tarifi bunun çok üstünde. Gençler, biz bu derneği sizin sesiniz olsun, sizin bir araya geldiğiniz ortamlar olsun diye kurduk. Bizim ve eski jenerasyonun bir araya gelme konusunda hataları, eksiklikleri çoktur. Biz bu derneği herkes için kurduk. Üye başvurusu yapıp reddedilen kimse olmamıştır bugüne değin. Ki öğrencilerimize dernek üyeliği ücretsizdir. Sadece çalışmalarını isteriz onlardan. Ve bu derneği size makale üretme, saha çalışmalarında finans sağlama, burs sağlama, bizlerin gençliklerinde yaşadıkları zorlukları yaşamamanız adına kurduk. Biz büyükler gençlere sadece kurumunuz içinden değil, Daha geniş ölçekli katkı sağlayın ve siz gençler faydalanın diye. Şevval Beşiroğlu burslu adına ümit verici gelişmeler oldu örneğin bu sempozyum ardından. Adını anmadan geçmeyeceğim. Mehmet Söylemez Hoca dedi ki az sayıda bastığı bir kitabı vardı, sempozyuma da getirdi. Ve kitabın yeni baskısını Etnomüzikoloji Derneği yardımıyla daha çok sayıda basıp telif bedelinde burs için vermeyi teklif etti örneğin. Üretmek, var olmaktır. İnsana özgü eşsiz unsur olan fikir üretme, insanlığın yapacağı en büyük katkıdır. Gelin bu ağa ortak olun ve özel sektör mensupları da bu anlamda desteğinizi gençlerden esirgemeyin. Niteliği gitgide artan, katılımı gitgide çoğalan birliktelikler ve çalışmalar ve tabii daha sağlıklı günlere ulaşmak dileğiyle sizleri saygı ve en içten sevgilerimle sevgilerimle veda etmek istiyorum. Dergimize gönderdiğiniz makaleleri, üyeliklerinizi bir arada olmanızı canı gönülden diliyorum. Unutmayalım, bu yolda çok da fazla değiliz. Olanların da uzak durmamalarını şiddetle talep ediyorum. Hepinize iyi, mutlu, sağlıklı günler.